I recently did a coaster trip where I visited many parks between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. This is my recent Northeast coaster trip. Last year I did a trip virtually just in New Jersey. I didn't actually go to many parks, but this recent trip I went to many parks, including Maurice Piers, Playland's Castaway Cove, Six Flags Great Adventure, Dorney Park, and Hersheypark, just to name a few of them. And I got a bunch of new coaster credits. In fact, I've gotten around 25 new coasters, ranking all my coasters up to 136. Today's video, I'm going to be counting down my top 15 favorite coasters that I rode this trip, so it could be a coaster I've ridden in the past or a new credit. Basically, these are my top 15 coasters that I have ridden this trip. No, Nitro from Six Flags Great Adventure will not be on this list because Nitro was closed, and in fact, apparently it was closed for quite a few weeks right at the point where I went to the park. Apparently, it reopened just 2 days ago. But yeah, just note Nitro is not on this list due to it being closed. But coming at the number 15 spot is HYDRA the Revenge from Dorney Park. This is one of my new coaster credits, and HYDRA is a very unique B&M four-wheelers coaster. This four-wheelers coaster is very interesting and has a very cool layout. Now, the reason why this coaster doesn't rank any higher is because this ride has a very nasty rattle to it. Like, in each of the valleys, you notice the train vibrates. But overall, I love that JoJo roll. Like, the hang time is real, and you're like floating out of your seat. I absolutely love that. And the first drop, if you're in the back row, you actually get some pretty good floater airtime coming off of it. But overall, the coaster is just your typical B&M four-wheelers, but a very unique four-wheelers coaster no matter what. It's a very cool ride. I just wish it was a bit smoother. But coming at the number 14 spot is a roller coaster that has really redeemed itself this year. This is Batman the Ride from Six Flags Great Adventure. I have only done one Batman clone and this is it, but they're pretty much all the same. It has a really good layout, and when I rode it back in 2020, the ride was pretty rough and shaky, but this year the ride was running very smooth and honestly felt like it was brand new. There was no headbanging, there was no roughness. I was able to enjoy the forces, and let me tell you one thing, this is one forceful invert. It's actually crazy how intense this is. One of the most intense coasters out there. The two vertical loops deliver the great positives. The zero G roll is floaty and whippy, and the corkscrews are whippy as heck. The upward helix is crazy, but overall, Batman the Ride is an amazing B&M invert, and I really do understand why people rave these Batman clones now. But coming at the number 13 spot is another B&M invert. This is being Great Bear from Hersheypark. Great Bear is another very solid B&M invert. In my opinion, it is quite a bit overrated, but still it is a very good coaster. This coaster is probably one of the more unique layouts for an invert, actually having a very unconventional layout, especially towards the end of the ride, where you literally fly over water, like not really banked much, any whippy, and there's like a whip bank style. I don't know how you would describe into a whippy corkscrew. Also, when you drop off the lift hill, instead of going into your traditional first drop curves, you actually go into a helix right off the lift, which I find pretty interesting. I thought that was a really weird part of the ride. But overall, the inversions are pretty whippy. I will say this is the only invert that I've ridden that actually has like a bit of like a shakiness, like shuffling to it. It's a bit weird. But overall, Great Bear is a really solid B&M invert, and I will definitely do again when I go back to Hersheypark. But coming at the number 12 spot, we're going to continue the invert trend with Great Nor'easter from Maurice Piers. This is a Vekoma SLC, and yes, I did put it over Great Bear and Batman. This Vekoma SLC is really smooth, and in my opinion, one of the smoothest coasters, actually smoother than some B&Ms I've ridden, specifically talking about Green Lantern, a Six Flags Great Adventure. But overall, Great Nor'easter is a fantastic ride. It shows you that the Vekoma SLC layout is one of the best inverted coaster layouts. It is so compact. The amount of near misses this ride has is actually crazy, especially with the water slides and the log flume. Overall, the rollover inversion is really fun. The double hardline roll is really fun, and that sidewinder gives a punch as you're getting pulled through it, especially towards the front of the train. Overall, Great Nor'easter is a fantastic and forceful invert that I definitely have to get back on when I go back to Maurice Piers. But coming at the number 11 spot is actually my favorite B&M four-wheelers, which is MEDUSA from Six Flags Great Adventure. MEDUSA this year was running fantastic. Like in 2020 when it was Bizarro, it was a fantastic ride, but honestly, this year was my best ride yet. I didn't get a single bit of headbanging, and the ride was running really smooth. Smoother than what most B&M four-wheelers run. There was no headbanging, no rattle anywhere. And honestly, MEDUSA is so good. The inversions are great. The hang time on the actual corkscrews is pretty good because the mid-course hits you pretty hard, actually. But overall, MEDUSA is a really fun four-wheelers coaster, and it definitely is a reason to why it is my favorite four-wheelers coaster, especially now that I've done 5 of them. But coming at the number 10 spot is Talon from Dorney Park. This is actually my favorite B&M invert currently in the Northeast currently. This B&M invert's actually really underrated. It actually pulls some really good forces. It's really smooth. I really enjoyed the layout. I was actually surprised that the ride pulled so many forces, especially for it being the newest invert that I've ridden. I believe it opened in the early 2000s, but besides that, the ride actually has some really good positive forces. It's really smooth. There's no headbanging. The 0G roll is really nice and floaty. It's not whippy like the other inverts I've ridden, but I love the floatiness to it. The element's fun. The first drop is really fun, and overall, I really enjoy Talon. It has a beautiful setting right in like a tree setting area, and honestly, I think Talon's a very underrated B&M invert. It's definitely a must-do when you're at Dorney Park. But coming at the number 9 spot is the first of many Intamin coasters, which is Fahrenheit from Hersheypark. Fahrenheit is an absolutely amazing Intamin coaster. This is kind of like if you took a B&M looper but made it an Intamin twist with a vertical lift hill and a beyond vertical drop. Fahrenheit has some amazing inversions, very smooth. In my opinion, I find this coaster actually pretty underrated. The corkscrew is very snappy. There's a pure crazy eject airtime moment before the final brake run. The go roll is really cool, and overall, I really think Fahrenheit has a really good layout. And overall, Fahrenheit is an absolutely amazing coaster, and it's definitely a must-do when I go back to Hersheypark. If I had to say row recommendation, you gotta try this in the front row, in my opinion. I think the front row is actually the best on this ride, besides the back for a drop. You feel all those crazy visuals, and you honestly get more whip through those elements. But coming at the number 8 spot is the world's tallest roller coaster, KINGDA at Six Flags Great Adventure. This Intamin Strata coaster is an absolutely amazing roller coaster. That first launch is my favorite launch of all time, especially if you're sitting in the front row. You get that wind, your cheeks start to flap back. It's really weird. But honestly, KINGDA is absolutely amazing. Climbing up that 456-foot top hat's absolutely insane. I actually got a pop of ejector airtime coming over it this past year. And that speed hill is really fun. It gives you a pretty nice floater moment. But overall, KINGDA is just a very chaotic ride, and that's absolutely why I love it. I think it's one of the best roller coasters in the world, and it's definitely a must-do when you're at Great Adventure. I mean, it's a must-do if you're ever at this park. But coming at the number 7 spot is GLAEFORCE from Playland's Castaway Cove. GLAEFORCE is by far the most underrated coaster on this list. This coaster is so much fun with some crazy ejective airtime pops. The launches have some pretty good force, and for being S&S take on the Skyrocket 2 style model, they did a very good job. I would much rather have this as Tigris at Busch Gardens Tampa Bay than what Tigris is actually. But overall, this ride is absolutely amazing, really smooth. Note if you're in the back part of the train, it is actually kind of rattly. So if you are in the front, it's perfectly smooth, and that's where I got my best rides. And overall, getting able to see the ocean right in front of you is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love this ride. But coming at the number 6 spot is by far the most underrated coaster in my opinion in the world, Steel Force at Dorney Park. Steel Force is an absolutely amazing Morgan hypercoaster. This is kind of like if Magnum XL200 was properly shaped and profiled. This ride has some great airtime on those final finale bunny hills. This has a magic seat just like Magnum Row 3. I was able to get standing ejector airtime on those final hills, and the mid course does not hit at all, but the first part of the ride is also pretty solid, especially in the back. You get a pretty dose of good ejector airtime, especially if you're in that back car and you have room between you and the lap bar, and also going over that first massive camelback. Towards the front of the train, you have a really good pop of airtime going to the speed hill before the turnaround, and of course that second half is littered with ejector airtime, especially towards the front of the train where you get absolutely ejected out of your seat, kind of like Magnum. Overall, Steel Force is an absolutely amazing Morgan hypercoaster, and I definitely love it. It's definitely a ride that I must do again when I'm at Dorney. But coming at the number 5 spot is Storm Runner from Hersheypark. This is Hersheypark's Intamin Accelerator coaster and is their only launch coaster. This Intamin Accelerator is actually my personal favorite accelerator at the moment. It has some great ejector airtime moments. First of all, that first launch is absolutely amazing. The ride also has a great top hat with the ejector airtime going over it, and the nice thing is the top hat actually feels like a drop. That Cobra loop element is very cool, very snappy, especially in the back. It's a weird shaped implement, and then the flying snake dive is absolutely amazing. You get whipped through it, especially if you're in the back car. And those weird snaps on the S-bends are very weird, but very fun. And then the brake run, of course. It's a very short ride. What it does do is very amazing. It definitely deserves in the top 5. But coming at the number 4 spot is Jersey Devil coaster from Six Flags Great Adventure. I got 4 rides on this RMC Raptor coaster this year, and it did not disappoint once again. Last year when I rode it, I thought it was an absolutely amazing coaster, and if anything, Jersey Devil has gotten even better this year since I've gotten the chance to finally ride this RMC Raptor Raptor with the mid-course off. Over this past year, I really had time to think about it, and I really thought it was still a great ride, but after I got these re-rides, it was amazing. Overall, Jersey Devil Coaster is fantastic. It has a really good layout. Yeah, the pacing may suffer a little due to those longer trains, but in my opinion, it delivers one of the best first drops in the world, if not my favorite first drop in the park, especially if you're in that back row. That camelback gives some amazing ejector airtime wherever you are. The stall, once again, gives amazing hang time, and there are airtime moments everywhere. I even got some floater airtime on the Outer Bank Hills, and the Speedo gave a nice dose of ejector, but overall, Jersey Devil Coaster is an absolutely amazing coaster, and was a great fit for Six Flags Great Adventure. But coming at the number 3 spot is CANDYMONIUM from Hersheypark. Now, surprisingly, this is my brand new favorite B&M hypercoaster, and some may be saying recency bias, which you know what that could be, but honestly, after getting a total of 5 rides on this amazing B&M hyper, I came to the conclusion this is not my favorite hyper, just one spot above Mako. They're very close for me. But let's talk about this coaster. This coaster has an amazing first drop. The camelback is amazing. Even the trim tills aren't that bad, and the speed hill gives a nice pop of ejector airtime. That weird outer bank turn actually gives like weird flow ejector. It's a weird sensation, but I really like it. And there's hidden airtime moments on this ride to where I didn't think there would be any airtime. The second part of the ride is really fun, especially when you go around the helix around the Kisses fountain. And overall, this ride is fantastic. It's really nice and long, and I love these B&M hypers, and that is why it's placing at my number 3 spot. But coming at the number 2 spot is SKYRUSH from Hersheypark as well. SKYRUSH is by far one of the most insane roller coasters out there. In fact, this is a top 5 coaster for me. This ride has, in my opinion, the best drop on a roller coaster that I have personally experienced. Amazing ejective airtime moments, crazy transitions, some amazing laterals towards the end of the ride. Overall, SKYRUSH is like a perfect hypercoaster. In fact, it's actually my favorite traditional hypercoaster at the moment. SKYRUSH pulls some amazing forces with some crazy airtime. There's an overbank, and as you're coming out of the overbank, you actually get some pretty awesome laterals. The restraints don't bother me at all. Actually, I learned how to hold the restraints up because I did get pretty stapled on my first out of 6 rides on this coaster. But after that, I learned how to hold the restraint up, and I was able to enjoy the airtime and overall just enjoy the ride. And overall, SKYRUSH is an absolutely amazing coaster that is a must-do when you go to Hersheypark. But coming at the number 1 spot is ELTORO from Six Flags Great Adventure. I finally got some must-read rides on this coaster just this past year. I actually got a total of 7 rides just this past month, and this coaster is running better than ever. The ejector airtime is there. Yeah, it is a little rough, and honestly, it has the perfect amount of roughness for a wooden coaster, but the 2 amazing camelbacks are crazy. The Throwing Thunder Hill is crazy, and I finally got to experience that first drop in the back row, and that first drop is one of the best. Definitely top 3 for me. This first drop is absolutely crazy. The 2 camelbacks are great. The turnaround section is a bit rough, and honestly, it does have the middle section to where it is kind of a breather, but in my opinion, you do need that because of the Rolling Thunder Hill and then all the switchback. But overall, ELTORO is an absolutely fantastic coaster that is a must-do whenever you go to Six Flags Great Adventure. But that is going to do it for today's video of me ranking my top 15 favorite coasters that I got to ride on my Northeast coaster trip. Tell me what your guys' opinions down below. I know a few of these choices were pretty controversial, especially saying that Great Barrel is probably one of the most overrated B&M inverts and putting Great Nor'easter above it. But these are just my opinions, and I please respect my opinions. But if you guys are interested in subscribing, please subscribe. I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and we are less than 100 away. So please subscribe, like the video, and comment all your thoughts down below. I'll see you guys next video. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye everyone.